Hello, I'm Michelle LaBrasse. I'm the founder of Cheetah Learning. We've been helping people become PMP certified in 4 days since 2001. And the purpose of this presentation is to show you the 5 quick steps you can take to become PMP certified. Now, we included a workbook with this, and we'd like you to follow along with that workbook. I'm going to get into the next slide here. We want you to get a lot out of this session because we know it's important to you to pass the PMP exam. So the first things first is make sure you turn off your distractions, your social channels, your chats, your emails, your Slacks, your texts, etc. Time box an hour. You're going to get a lot out of this. You're going to remember a lot more if you're not distracted. Make sure you're using that note taker. Have a paper and pen ready to take notes. There's a connection between your brain and your hand. It's going to help with recall. This is a very important session. And we want you to take care of your basic needs right now. Take a bio break, have a high protein snack, drink some water, use the bathroom, and make sure that you're ready to go with this. So let's talk a little bit about the history of the PMP. The PMP started in 1984. It's been around over 40 years now. And it's interesting that we started in 2001, and you'll see this curve that it wasn't doing so well because 80% of people were failing on the first attempt and 40% failed with all 3 attempts. It's under 40,000 people. If it had kept going at that rate, we would be seeing far fewer PMPs over the past 40 years if we kept going at that rate. But something changed in 2001, and it was Cheetah invented the 4-day accelerated PMP exam prep approach. PMI was so happy about this that in 2007 they gave us an award for it, the Authorized Provider of the Year, or the PM Provider of the Year award. And they said it was because we made it possible to pass the PMP exam, which made a lot more people want to take it. So we're seeing that over the past 40 years. How long has the PMP been around? Let's talk about the next slide here. So how many PMPs were there before Cheetah Learning invented this 4-day approach? There was only 40,000. It was fewer than 40,000. And now it's a little over, I think, 1.4 million. And many of these new PMPs are cheetahs, and they passed in 4 days. We have a 98% pass rate, and we have a 100% passing guarantee for people who follow the program. Now, what's even more amazing is we rolled this out the week of 9/11 in 2001, and most people who were alive then realized what a stressful day that was for everybody all over the world, and our students still passed on Friday. We couldn't go anywhere anyways. We were all stuck in a room in Boston, so they wanted to keep going. It's an amazing, amazing way to start this program. So let's talk a little bit about where we are now, 2024. PMI estimates there's 90 million project managers worldwide. That's a lot of project managers, and they're expecting to see a growth of 25 million more in the next 5 years. And what's the problem? 75% of projects are failing when there's a lack of PM leadership. And 80% of high-performing projects are led by a certified project manager. That's pretty good odds that if you bring somebody who is PMP certified on board, you're going to have better luck with your projects. And what we're really excited about, 90% of the publicly traded companies who bring on Cheetah to train a large percentage of the PMPs to get certified, they get measurable operational improvements in only 1 year. We've had a company that's brought us on for 15 years, and their stock price goes up in direct proportion to how many of their project managers are trained to become PMPs by Cheetah. And that's pretty exciting to us because there's always difficulty in measuring what is your return on investment for training. But not with Cheetah Learning. There's a very quick return on investment for training with Cheetah Learning. So let's talk about project managers, because a lot of people are like, well, I don't really see why I would want to go with Cheetah. They're more expensive because, well, we're worth it. And the second is it says a lot about you as a project manager. So let's say that you have two project managers, and project manager number 1 took 4 days to complete the project and only had a 2% chance of not completing the project. Or project manager number 2 took over a year to complete the project and had an 80% chance of not completing the project. So which one of these two is the better project manager? Well, we know the answer is obviously number 1, which is the cheetah project manager. And we also see that because so many people's bosses who went through cheetah refer them to cheetah. So they're obviously getting promoted because they're the better project managers. So that's pretty basic. Why so many people come to cheetah is because their boss, who also went to cheetah, is telling them they should. So what are the 5 quick steps to becoming PMP certified? These are 5 steps that we've used for the past 24 years since we've been doing this. The number 1 is to get the correct type of PM education. Number 2 is to meet PMI's eligibility requirements. Number 3 is to know the PMI way. Number 4 is to integrate the PMI way with your working experience. And the last one is to be able to logically deduce the correct answers on the PMP exam. And when you can do these 5 steps, you're going to become PMP certified. So let's get into how do we do these 5 steps. Now, PMI requires that everybody have 35 hours of project management education as part of their PMP eligibility application. But we all know that 35 hours of not very good project management education isn't as good as 35 hours of fantastic project management education. So there are over 650 organizations who offer some form of PMP exam prep. And if the company says that their training counts for your 35-hour PM education requirement, when would you complete your PMI eligibility application? Before or after you complete their course? Well, you would be completing it after their course. Now, this is an alarming statistic. I was very alarmed when I heard this, is that almost 400,000 people a year are preparing for the PMP exam, and only 200,000, or only half of them, have enough confidence to fill out the PMI eligibility application. So they're wasting their time preparing for an exam that they're not even going to do the application because they're not confident to take the exam. That's pretty bad. And so of the 400,000 and 200,000, so you just already got lost 50% of people who just took the class. So you just paid twice as much money for that class if you brought this in for your staff. You've demoralized half your staff because they don't feel comfortable filling out that application. But what's even worse is that of the half that fill out the application, fewer than 20% are passing the exam on their first time. That is completely demoralized. So let's say that you have 20 people you pay to put through a PMP course, somebody that just says, oh, I can teach one of these 650 organizations. You went with a low bidder. You took 4 days out of these 20 people's lives. 10 of them are going to feel comfortable with filling out that application. 2 of them will pass the exam the first time out. So you have just demoralized 90% of your staff by using one of these companies. So I want you to consider that when you're looking at the different ways that you can become PMP certified. So with Cheetah Learning, you must have your PMP exam scheduled before you begin your exam prep with Cheetah. So you get your 35 hours of PM education before you start the accelerated exam prep. And you can even have a Cheetah PMP coach review your PMI eligibility application before you submit it. So do you think this reduces or increases your risk with becoming PMP certified? It substantially reduces your risk because everybody who goes through Cheetah already has their eligibility application done, and we make sure that you are completing the eligibility application correctly so that PMI approves you. So what do you need to have to meet PMI eligibility? You have to be a project manager. We can't take somebody right out of college who's never been a formal project manager and get them through the PMI application. We don't have a magic wand here. If you have a college degree, you have to have 4,500 hours over 36 months, and they can't be overlapping projects. You have to have done these projects in a consecutive order. If you don't have any college degree, you have to have 7,500 hours over 60 months, but you can go back 8 years for either one. Now, PMI has a new category about accredited schools, and you only have to have 2 years of experience, but there's not that many accredited schools, so you just have to check that out. But generally, most people fall into one of these two categories. So how much does it cost? Now, PMI just recently raised their prices, so it costs about $150 to join PMI membership, and that's in the US and Europe and places where project managers make more money. In places where project managers don't make more money, the PMI fee is usually less, but no matter where you are worldwide, you have to pay $425 to PMI to take the PMP exam. And if you're not a member, you have to pay $675. Now, you only pay this once PMI approves your application. Now, one of the things we see, because we review hundreds of PMP applications and we've interacted with PMI for years on this, your experience in the projects have to be leading and directing those projects, and it has to be in PMI's format. So what do you think happens if PMI does not like what you put for your experience? Yes, that's right. They won't approve your application. So we're very directive in how we want you to fill out that application because we want you to be able to become PMP certified. So when PMI gets your application, they do one of three things. They'll accept it. You're going to hear back within a week. They'll deny it. You'll also hear back within a week. And if they're going to audit it, you usually hear back immediately because they audit about 20% of every application. And they'll just do it automatically because they want to make sure that people are following the rules. So on a scale from 1 to 10, with 10 being the most concerned, how much does the PMI eligibility application concern you? It should be pretty high up there because if you do not meet PMI's eligibility requirements, you can't pass go. You will not become a PMP. So you're wise to be very concerned about that PMI eligibility application. It is the first hurdle you have to pass to becoming PMP certified. The next thing is knowing the PMI way. Now, the PMI way is based on the generally agreed standard of doing projects across every single industry. So there is absolutely no way you could know how to do projects across every single industry. So it's going to take some time and effort for you to learn this. So since 2019, the PMP exam is based on over 200 references, not just on the PMBOK any longer. So it takes more effort. So do you have the time to review 200 references to get ready for the PMP exam? Even if you did have the time, you don't know what is important in those 200 references, and it's information overload. So how do you know you're studying the correct material? So let's just give you a couple of pointers. If you need to memorize 49 PM processes, read the PMBOK, or if all the practice questions are multiple choice, you are likely studying the wrong material. So there's what you need to know is you need to know the PMI isms. You need to know the standard theme of the PMI way. You need to know predictive project management, which are 5 project phases, also called domains. You need to know Agile PM and how it can integrate with predictive project management, also called hybrid. And you've got to understand the domains that they're looking at as processes, people, and business. So on a scale from 1 to 10, with 10 being the most confident, how confident are you that you know the PMI way? If you're anything over a 5, I'm going to tell you you're likely delusional. Nobody is going into this knows the PMI way unless they've studied it for years. I've been doing this for 24 years, and I'm still consider myself maybe an advanced beginner on the PMI way. I know enough, but the PMI way is so comprehensive and applies to so many different project fields that it's an ongoing process, which is why they want you to keep your PMP by staying abreast of what's going on in project management and earn 60 PDUs every 3 years. But if you're over 5, I tell you, you're likely, you don't even know what you don't know. You probably are suffering from the Dunning-Kruger effect, which is where people who aren't competent think they have a lot more competence than they do. So I want you to do a reality check on yourself if you have put anything more than 5 here. So I want to ask you something. Memorization alone does not work for passing the PMP exam. So I'm hoping that if you're watching this, you are a practicing project manager and you run into things, running projects day in and day out, that you can't rely on memory. You got to rely on your experience. You got to talk to coworkers. You got to collaborate with people. You got to do some research. It is not about memorization being a good project manager, and neither is the PMP exam. Passing the PMP exam won't work for memorization is not going to work for passing the PMP exam. You cannot memorize your way to success with this exam. I'm going to ask you something. What happens when you discover you're wrong about how you study or even doing projects? How do you feel? When I first got into this, and I was writing a book about project management back in the year 2000, and somebody suggested I look at getting PMP certified because I needed to get those initials after my name for the book. I took their exam. I took a practice exam, and the first thing I said is, wow, this is a real bunch of bureaucratic BS. I was embarrassed that I didn't know it, and I'm writing a book about project management. I can know exactly how I felt when I did that. It was a long time ago, but I remember. So I want you to think about, how do you feel when you realize you're wrong about something, or you're not as prepared as you think you are? It's not a comfortable feeling, but you'll remember that feeling. I want to ask you this. Do you think those feelings help or hurt your performance on the PMP exam? I mean, it could help you because you're motivated to now learn more, or it could hurt you because now you're angry. Anger, though, can be positive as long as it doesn't slip into apathy. But if you're angry, you could have some energy. But these feelings, they're not all that helpful to passing the PMP exam. You kind of need to get over yourself. So it's a crucial step, and it's also one that a lot of people miss when conventional studying approaches. A little bit over time or cramming, neither of these work with the way your brain best works. And neither of these approaches help with long-term approaches. Now, Cheetah's course, 4-day course, is not a CRAM program. We do have the acronym CRAMS in our Cheetah sphere, but it has to do with our Cheetah registration and management system. And it's a joke, we call it CRAMS, but it has nothing to do with the way that we help people become capable of passing the PMP exam after 4 days. The number one thing we do is we teach you how do you integrate the PMI way with your working experience. This is a crucial bridge you have to make here to get to logically deducing the correct answer, and we're going to tell you how we do that. So what part of your experience stores, what part of your brain stores your experience doing project management? All right, so we know working knowledge, the contextual insights of how you do things, is stored in your hippocampus. It's known as habits. So let's talk a little bit about driving a car. You probably got your license when you were a teenager or maybe your early 20s. But most people, after driving a car for several years, they don't have to think about it anymore. It's a procedural knowledge. It's a habit. That skill is stored in your hippocampus. It is the same way if you are a practicing project manager, which is what the PMP exam is for, is that you actually have project management experience. So you need to know how to integrate your working experience with the PMI way, and that is stored in a part of your brain called the hippocampus that may be a little bit difficult for you to access it if you do not know how. So instant recall, though, this is what you get from storing and retrieving new information into short-term memory, which is where you're putting the PMI way in. And this one student said she'd have tattooed the PMI way on my frontal lobes, which we thought was very funny. Thank you, Jed, for saying that. But it is true. It is basically accessing your short-term memory. Now, this is why memorization doesn't work, because those PMP questions are relying on you being able to access your working experience. So what part of your brain stores the information you need to know for the PMP exam? Just want to go back. It's the prefrontal cortex. It is the memory stuff, the short-term memory. So instant recall. Now, the instant recall is very different than memorization. Instant recall is, I'm going to be accessing new information and I'm going to have hooks, links to your experiences, which is your working experience, your locations, your feelings, and your senses. This is what stimulates instant recall. Think about losing your car keys on the way out the door. You go and you retrace your steps. You need a breadcrumb trail, which is one of the things we do with Cheetah's approach, is we help you create that breadcrumb trail to go dig back into your working experience, to trigger things so that you can trigger your working experience and you know how it fits with the PMI way. So what part of your brain and your prefrontal cortex is hooking to for stimulating instant recall? It is stimulating your working knowledge in your hippocampus. So basically, PMI way is integrating with your hippocampus, your frontal cortex is integrating with your working experience in order to logically deduce the correct answer. All right, let's talk about memory. Remember 7 slides back, I asked you, how would you feel when you were wrong? Do you remember how you felt? Probably. It's not a comfortable feeling. I can tell you, I remember how I felt when I realized, even though I was writing a project management book, I really didn't know how I was going to go about and pass the PMP exam. So let's talk about stress and anxiety. It activates the limbic system, which takes priority over higher mental processing, which means if you're stressed and you have exam anxiety, this instant recall system that relies on your prefrontal cortex and these hooks into your hippocampus is not going to work well, which is why we see a 80% failure rate on the PMP exam, is people do not know how to manage their stress and anxiety, and they can't do these two things well. First of all, they haven't been trained on how to do them, but their brain is muddled. So do you think stress and anxiety helps or hurts your brain's ability to connect your experiences to the PMI way? You're right, it hurts it, and it hurts it significantly. So the brain state you have to be in order to pass the PMP exam, you have to be in a state of relaxed focus. And one of the things Cheetah students learn how to do is how to get and stay in a state of relaxed focus so that they can integrate the PMI way with their working experience. It is critically important. So on a scale from 1 to 10, with 10 being the most confident, how confident are you that you can maintain a state of relaxed focus for 4 hours so you can best use your brain to pass the PMP exam? So many people tell us after they go through this experience that we have cured their test anxiety because they now have a series of tactics and techniques they can use to stay in a state of relaxed focus when they're taking exams. So what brain state helps you best logically deduce the correct answer on the PMP exam? It is a state of relaxed focus. And that is where we have to get to in order to pass the PMP exam. Whether you're going to spend 4 days doing it with Cheetah, or you're going to take the 4-week one-on-one coach, or you're going to do our Cheetah PMP sprint and 2-week sprints, we're going to teach you how to get and stay in a state of relaxed focus so you can logically deduce the correct answers. So what's actually on this test? Now that we've talked about all of your brain functioning, let's actually talk about what's on this test and why is this test so hard? So the first one is you have a lot of situational questions. Some exams have a lot of reading. You only have 4 hours, I think, is it 240 minutes to take this test? And it's cut up in a couple of different ways. We'll get into that. But there's a lot of reading. And if you don't know how to read quickly and get the general gist of it, you're not going to finish the test. Pacing is critically important. There's a lot of project management details, arcane project management skills that you might have never heard of. You have to figure out what they mean. It's balance between impossible and simple. And if you don't know how to go through a test that has this type of stuff on it, you're going to be derailed very quickly. And the scoring is based on the difficulty of the question. So not every question is worth the same amount. So there's 180 questions on this exam. You take the exam in 3 sections of 60 questions each. Of the 180, 50% are on the project management processes, 42% are on people, 8% is on the business environment. 5 questions are experimental, meaning they're just so out there, they're not counting them, but you don't know which ones they are. 50% are based on agile and hybrid. Most of the questions are multiple choice. There's some drag and drop. There's some put in order. There's some hot spots. There's some pick 3 out of 5. There's check all that apply. So there's a couple of different ones, but for the most part, they're all multiple choice. Oh, here we go. Yes, this is the slide I wanted. So sorry for the mess up here. So scoring, how do you score on the test? So there's overall and domain level. So at every domain level, you'll get above target, target, below target, or needs improvement. And you need to be at target or above target to pass the exam. And so a lot of times people might be needs improvement. Most of the Cheetah students hit a target or above target. Many of them do above target when they take the exam. So let's talk about this. What are the 5 critical steps you must do to pass the PMP exam? Well, the first step is you got to get the right type of project management education. And if it's if the education is telling you that they qualify for the 35 hours, I don't want to burst your bubble, but that's not going to help you if you can't fill out the PMI eligibility application. So that's another critical step. So the way Cheetah does it is we make sure you have that 35 hours and we help you fill out the eligibility application. You have to know the PMI way and you have to know how it integrates with your working experience. And then you have to be able to keep calm in a state of relaxed focus to logically deduce the correct answers. And that's where we get you to with Cheetah's program. So I want you to identify the probability that each of these risks, how much they would impact you passing the PMP exam. So let's look at the first one. Exam anxiety is one of the number one reasons people fail the PMP exam, especially if they're not prepared for how to handle it. They get into that PMP exam and they're not prepared for it. They're very stressed out. They can't use the correct part of their brain, and they don't pass the test. This is why we see 80% failure rate the first time, not with Cheetah students. Cheetah students have a 98% pass rate. So your probability, if it's high that you have exam anxiety, you have to master relaxation techniques that are directly related to this exam. You can't just master relaxation techniques that help you do great at sports or whatever. You need to learn how to do relaxation techniques that are related to logically deducing the correct answer. Do you have memory challenges? I mean, we get a lot of people who are older and they're worried about their memory. Well, we don't really care what your age is. We can help you learn better memory techniques. We can help you learn how to take care of your body so that your brain works better. Are you easily distracted? This is a very common problem these days. Well, one of the things you do before you start studying with Cheetah is we help you develop a peak performing mind, and we teach you how to stay focused. This next one is, how relevant is your experience? Now, a lot of you are worried about the PMI eligibility application, and rightfully so. You should be worried about it. You need to identify where your relevance exists. This is a really important step because it helps you integrate your working experience with the PMI way. When you start to realize, I am doing some work in the PMI way, you can quantify it and you can use it as your strength. A lot of us have a strong inner critic that we call it the crazy roommate that is always having automatic negative thoughts, and whatever you're bad, you would never let somebody talk to you the way your crazy roommate talks to you. So what we work with people is, how do we lay down new neural networks that quiet this inner critic? Now, this isn't about a fake affirmation about confidence. They do work, but they don't work that great. What really works is real confidence born of experience. And that's one of the things we help you do with Cheetah, is develop real confidence, authentic confidence that is not just, a false sense of bravado, but it's actual because you've done the work and you're ready. The next one that people are worried about is not enough time to study. We all live incredibly busy lives. Cheetah is using a 24-year proven accelerated approach. You give us 4 days, make sure you're PMP certified. Yes, you're going to have to do some pre-work to get to that 4-day part, but the pre-work isn't very hard. Most people have said Cheetah's approach is the easiest, hardest thing I've ever done. We have a 4-day approach. We also have a 4-week one-on-one coaching approach. You still have to do some pre-work. This is for people who can't get 4 days off from work. We also have this thing called the Cheetah PMP Sprint, which is very cool. It's two-week sprints. You start on a Saturday, and we take you through two-week sprints, and at the end of the sprint, you are ready to go and take the PMP exam. So one of the things that we notice is that when people do this, they then go teach it to their kids, they teach it to their coworkers, their families, their friends, and we recognize they have a new capability as a certified accelerated learner. So when they pass the PMP exam, they also get the certified accelerated learner credential, which gives them some more skills. We have tools that they can use to teach these techniques to their family, their children, their friends, and their coworkers. So let's talk about what concerns you most about passing the PMP exam. Let's get it out in the open, because then we can make sure that we address it. Do you not have enough time? Are you worried about the eligibility application? Are you worried about the hit to your career if you don't pass? And we get a lot of people in here. It's interesting. We get a lot of bosses in here that don't want to let anybody know they came through Cheetah because they don't want to be embarrassed about not passing the PMP exam. So, it's a real concern. You're not the only one who has these concerns. They're pretty much universal, that people are very worried about passing the PMP exam, almost so that they won't even go about taking it because, I haven't taken it yet. Well, when you take it with Cheetah, we know you're going to pass the exam, especially when you follow the program. We can't do much for people who don't follow the program. It's kind of like someone who doesn't do any service on their car and expects the warranty to be valid. We need you to follow the program to pass. So how do you feel about PMI's PMP eligibility requirements? Do they concern you? They don't concern me so much because I know how to make sure that your experience we position in a way that's relevant for PMI. But if you haven't done it before, you don't necessarily know what PMI is looking for, you should be pretty concerned about PMI's eligibility requirements. And what did you learn about your specific risks for passing the PMP exam? We don't want you to be in that 80% pool. We want you to be one of the 98% people that passes and is really excited about it because not only are you passing the PMP exam, but you're doing it so much faster than everybody else that your actual sense of self-confidence increases so dramatically, you're going to be mind blown about what else you're going to go after. And we've seen that over 2 decades and the where people rise to in their career after they go through Cheetah, which is one of the reasons we're still in it, because we are about helping people exceed and succeed in their careers beyond their wildest imaginations. So what are you going to do differently so you can increase your chances of passing the PMP exam and becoming PMP certified? We hope you say you're going to go through Cheetah, because I can tell you that you're probably not going to pass going through any of these other approaches with an overall 80% failure rate for the first time. So why are we so different? We've been doing this approach since 2001. This chart has existed for a very long time. The number one thing we do is peak performing mind, and it's all encompassing. Your study efforts are significantly more effective when you do the right diet, exercise, and lifestyle. So basically, in the very first part of your program, you are getting yourself into a peak performing mind. And it makes it so much easier to do everything else. So let's talk about a person going for better health. They're going to follow the peak performing mind, diet, exercise, and lifestyle tips. The next thing is relaxed focus. It becomes so much easier to maintain a state of relaxed focus when you're feeding your body correctly, when you're taking care of your body correctly, when you're exercising, when you're limiting alcohol, caffeine, and sugar. You're going to do so much better in relaxed focus. So those are our first two. And like if you're an athlete, you're going to do peak performing mind and relaxed focus to increase your athletic performance. You're becoming a person who becomes very good at taking tests. You have to do the same thing. The next one is rapid synthesis. These are techniques that help you study in a way that's going to improve your retention and reduce your study time. We have a number of rapid synthesis techniques we do. Mind mapping, the cheetah sheets, mnemonics. We do all types of color coding, instant recall triggers. We do a lot with neuro-linguistic programming. Many students already use rapid synthesis. These are nothing new. When combined with the peak performing mind and relaxed focus, the rapid synthesis techniques work so much better. And the last thing that Cheetah does, we do a structured immersion process. So basically, everything is timed. We leave absolutely nothing to chance. This is why all of our students say, follow their process, it works. It's an immersion approach that we know works to help you pass the PMP exam very quickly. So most of our business is from referrals, and this is a standard sentiment we see from our students about Cheetah's program. They say the Cheetah Fast works. So most students feel that we start with an overwhelming amount of material, and they do trust the process. And after 4 intense days, I passed the PMP exam on the 5th with above average scores. We hear this from so many students. So in addition, the accelerated learning techniques were really helpful, and I can apply them in the future. Now, this one was great. My spouse went through the PMP certification process via a different prep program, and it took him a year. So can you imagine being in that house? She took 4 days, and she passed. and he had to go some other route, and it took him a year. Yeah, that probably wasn't really pleasant. So this is why year after year, 2 decades, cheetah learning is considered the gold standard in PM education. So how do we do it? What are your choices here? We have 3 different ways that you can do this. You can take the 4-day virtual live class. We have them every month. They're in the U.S. Central Time Zone, Monday through Thursday. We like people to register at least 6 weeks before because they have to do a comprehensive Head Start program where we work with them one-on-one to get their PMI eligibility application. And for those who follow the program, we have a full refund passing guarantee. Now, when you follow the program, you're going to not need a refund because you will pass the PMP exam. Then we have an online 4-week program where you work one-on-one with the Cheetah PMP coach at your own schedule that we create with you. And we recommend people register again 6 weeks before. There's a comprehensive Head Start, and we also guarantee that those will pass. Now, we know there's a lot of people who want a much less expensive program because the first 2 are very nurturing and intensive for our Cheetah PMP coaches. Most people said it felt like I was working one-on-one with my coach, which it is. But there's people who can't afford that. And so we have what we call the Cheetah PMP Sprint. It also meets once a month. It's the Saturday closest to the beginning of the month. So it starts that Saturday. So it may be a couple of days before the beginning of the month. But it's an independent learning effort that uses Cheetah's 24-year proven structured immersion program. So you're getting the same program and you're doing it independently in 2 2-week sprints. It's very directive. Every single day we're telling you exactly what you need to be doing. And you can start that. You can register up to 1 day before the class starts. We don't need you to register 6 weeks apart, 6 weeks ahead of time. In sprint 1, you are getting ready for your exam prep. And in sprint 2, you are doing a 2-week sprint to take the actual exam. So each sprint is about 40 hours. You're working your tail off. It's about 20 hours a week, and we're telling you exactly what you need to be doing every single day. And what we do with that one is there's an incentive bonus for passing the PMP exam within 4 days of the second sprint. We refund the $425 fee. That's the membership cost you paid to PMI for taking the PMP exam. And why do we do that? Because we want you to follow the program. When you follow the program, you will pass the PMP exam. And if we have an incentive bonus at the end, we would love to give you your $425 fee back to follow the program and pass the PMP exam. That's why we do it, is we all win when you pass the PMP exam. And we want to be part of that. We want to incentivize you to do it. Now, that program is about a quarter of what the other programs cost. And so what happens if this doesn't work for you? Well, we take that cost, that which you paid, not the PMI fee, which you paid to us, and we apply it to one of the other programs. And then you'll get the passing guarantee, and you have the 6-week Head Start again you're going to do, and then you're going to do either the 4-day or 4 weeks with the coach. But that way, if you want to just kick the tires and see if you could do it with the Cheetah PMP sprint in the 2-week sprints, it's intense. I'm not going to lie to you about that. One of the other things is we have a program called Cheetah Agile Certified that teaches you how to finish intense, significant projects in 2 weeks. And after you do the first 2-week sprint, you also earn the Cheetah Agile Certified because you finished a very significant project in 2 weeks. And we include that as part of getting your PMI's 35 PM education hours. So there's the 3 programs, the 4-day live, which is what most people register for. They're most comfortable. I just want to spend 4 days and I want the coaches and I want the help. Or the monthly one-on-one with the PMP coach. And the Cheetah PMP sprint is new. But we've had people do similar things through the online 4-week one, which is how we came up with the idea in the first place. But we added in this incentive to refund the PMI fee because we want people to follow the program, and that's in the Cheetah PMP sprint. So what are your next steps? You've stuck with us this long. So we have the little standard work breakdown, structure elements, the learning goal, the task, what date are you going to complete, and what are your stakeholders so you know who you have to interact with to do this. So the first thing is the first learning goal is take a PMP program that's going to reduce your risks for passing the PMP exam. So we have 3 approaches in Cheetah. Pick the Cheetah approach that best meets your needs. I'm not going to tell you to go take someone else's program because I want you to pass the PMP exam. Cheetah's program is by far the best way to pass the PMP exam, and there are tens of thousands of people that will also tell you that. So you can do the 4-day virtual live, the 4-week online one-on-one coached, or the Cheetah PMP sprint approach. Pick one of those 3. You're going to assess your PMP readiness. We want you to take a baseline exam. You're going to take that. One of the first things you do with Cheetah is you take a baseline exam. We want to see how well you're ready. You get a really good idea of why you need to pay attention to what we're saying. You're going to complete your PMI eligibility application, a very integral part of becoming PMP certified. We have you do that very early on. It's included as part of Cheetah's programs. And then you're going to pass the PMP exam. You're going to participate in Cheetah's exam prep, and we guarantee you're going to pass. We have an incentive for you to do it with the Cheetah PMP sprint. You follow either the 4-day or the 4-week online with one of our coaches. We have a full refund guarantee that you're going to pass with those. So make sure you fill out the application. If you have any questions at all, please feel free to give us a call. Visit cheetahlearning.com. Our phone number's there. You can register for the classes right on the front page. And we also have a little chat thing that you can just chat us online. We'll get back to you pretty quickly. We're cheetahs, so we like to respond very quickly. Thanks for participating, and I look forward to seeing PMP after your name.